Okay, I'm hoping you can all see that and hear it as well, because there is some audio as well to stop it being too boring with my voice. So I won't read this first slide out. I think the important point for me to call out from this slide is that Bibby can support businesses in these tough times. We've done it before in the banking crisis of the 2008 and 2009, and we've stood by small businesses, and that's what we intend to do throughout this tough period as well. The next one, as Mark said, and I feel like half of my presentation has been stolen by the other presenters. Our head office is in Liverpool. We have centralised our operations in 8 other offices around the country, but we are a family-run business. We've been in Liverpool for over 200 years, and our sales and relationship team are all home-based. Little did we know that the majority of the UK would be home-based to a fashion, but it's working quite well for us. We're transacting and working remotely, and I guess the biggest issue for us is making sure that our colleagues are keeping their heads motivated and well-being while you're stuck at home, because not going into offices is often a tougher environment. Our funding support, we'll go into talk about some of the areas that are highlighted on the slide. One area that we probably won't go into in any great detail is asset finance. Just to put the picture on that, our asset finance for us is machinery, trucks, CCTVs. It can even be restaurants, chairs and tables, and ovens that we'll finance. What we're writing a lot of at the moment is a refinance to help people sweat the assets and basically put cash into the business. So we class those assets as hard and soft assets. So if you want more detail on that, I can pick up after this call. And in terms of customer service, we're pretty proud of 2 things in Bibby. Well, 2 things that I'm very proud of. One is our Trustpilot scores, which are pretty good. And the second one is that we're in the top 100 best companies to work for. And we have been for the last 8 years. So we're pretty proud of that fact. It's a good place to work. I've included this slide in because this kind of, for me, what's happening at the moment is probably overshadowing Brexit and the challenges that are afoot. Bibby provides facilities for customers in the UK that are trading around the world, selling goods, and indeed, as Sarah will highlight, bringing goods in as well. But we do have operations in Europe. We've recently sold America. A while back, we sold Australia as well. So we've consolidated into Europe, and that's proving good for us, because we've tied up very closely with our colleagues, and we're helping support businesses that perhaps want to open up in Ireland with a view of what's happening in Brexit. And similarly, only yesterday, we helped a prospect that's having difficulty in getting an understanding with the payment terms in Belgium. We engaged our colleagues over in Belgium to help understand that language barrier. So we've got a fairly flat structure that we can pick the phone up to colleagues in these countries, so it works pretty good. Okay, so we'll go through trade and invoice finance, and just to give you a heads up, I'll probably cement what the other presentations have been about. I'll run VT hopefully, and if you can't hear, I'm hoping that somebody will flag to me, and I'll see what I can do.
Trade finance, funding and support to help you buy goods within the UK and overseas. Jamie runs a successful fashion wholesale business in the UK. He wants to fulfill a new order and import the goods from overseas, but he needs to finance it. He needs to bridge the cash flow gap between paying his overseas suppliers and waiting for his customers to pay for their orders. Jamie also wants to manage the effect currency fluctuations could have on his profits. He also needs help with the complexities that come with buying goods overseas. That's why Jamie contacted Sarah at Bibby Financial Services. Sarah explained how trade finance could help Jamie's business to buy more goods and help negotiate discounts with his suppliers. One way Jamie could pay his suppliers is with a deposit or full prepayment, even before his goods are shipped. By making prompt payment for goods, Jamie could benefit from any supplier discounts. Another option could be to pay his suppliers once the goods are shipped with a letter of credit or supplier undertaking. Adding an integrated FX service would also help protect Jamie's profits from the uncertainty of currency exchange rates. Here's how it works. Place an order with your supplier, either in the UK or overseas, and we make a prepayment or deposit payment on your behalf. Alternatively, you can place an order with your supplier and we make a guarantee of future payment once the goods are shipped. We can provide a funding facility up to £10 million on receipt of the agreed documentation, making payment to the supplier in a currency of their choice. We also pay your duty, VAT and freight on the same day your goods arrive, so there are no delays. When the goods are delivered, you repay us once they are sold or from an invoice finance facility that we can arrange. You can also cover yourself against non-payment of invoices with bad debt protection, protecting up to 90% of your bad debts. This also includes credit checks on new clients. Trade finance can help you pay your suppliers and manage your cash flow more effectively so you can buy the goods you need. We can do this for both pre-sold orders and speculative sales. If you think trade finance could help your business, then talk to us today.
Okay, guys, I'd like to welcome Sarah to my little presentation. And Sarah, you'll kind of go through a couple of stories, really, of where we've been seeing some challenges in the marketplace and how you're helping to facilitate some clients buying goods from overseas and indeed in the UK as well.
Yeah, thank you. Morning, everybody. Yeah, so I guess a couple of challenges that we've seen recently with some new clients that we've been speaking to is clients that have been dealing with actually TK Maxx in the market. Don't know if everybody on here deals with TK Maxx, but they've actually recently wrote to all their customers and pushed their payment terms out to 90 days, which is obviously having quite an impact on cash flow for these businesses. These businesses in particular need to kind of buy goods up front or get goods manufactured from the likes of China or Bangladesh. So often money can be out the door from when they're placing the order for 60 days until goods come into the UK. And then obviously they've got another 90 days on top of that when they're raising their invoice. So even just there, you've got 150 days payment gap there, to kind of 6 months where they can be out of pocket. So that's really where our trade finance and invoice finance can help alleviate those cash pressures. So one recent company that we actually onboarded recently is a company that designed their own brand of small electrical kitchen appliances. And after successful marketing, they secured a large contract with a UK distributor. So they had obviously the confirmed order in hand, but now had the challenge of getting these goods manufactured from their suppliers in China. So they therefore approached Bibby to see if we could help with the trade finance to help support paying the deposits that these suppliers are after. These were 30% deposits to start the manufacturing process. So with our trade finance support, we were able to make those deposit payments to the supplier to get the goods manufactured and then make the balancing payments once the goods were being shipped from China. Goods then come into the UK, they raise the invoice. We use the availability from that invoice to repay the trade money and liquidate the transaction and obviously fund it on the invoice finance until their customer's going to pay in 30 days time. So it's a really good way to kind of bridge that cash flow gap. And also with that particular client, we were also able to put an FX line in place for them so that they could forward buy currency to protect them from potential exchange fluctuations and save on more costs. So I think that's some really good examples of where the trade and invoice finance can help our clients.
Yeah, fabulous. Thanks, Sarah. I think for me, it is an exciting product because we are seeing, I don't know if you guys take the view, but if you do go into some stores that they do look a little bit lacking of stock. And when we get the call out from prospects at the moment saying, can you help us? That's what we want to do really in terms of joining up that payment terms that have been pushed out and suppliers that really don't really want to let goods leave the premises now without payment because the world has changed. So what Sarah does is fantastic in joining up all the dots. And you made it sound easy, Sarah, but it's really not. There's a lot of complexity around understanding Incoterms, the terms and conditions of who we're selling to, because sometimes and often the goods are then being pushed out overseas. So we have to understand the nature of terms in those countries. And then you've got the currency that obviously Sarah mentioned, that add to all this complexity. So thank you very much for that, Sarah. Do you want to add anything else, Sarah? Sorry.
One thing I just note as well is obviously with the trade finance, the key takeaway is it doesn't have to be an overseas supplier. Where you've got UK suppliers that aren't offering credit terms, we can also support in those scenarios. And again, customers don't need to be in the UK. We do fund 100% export as well under the invoice finance. So there are things also to kind of bear in mind.
Yeah, fabulous. Right, guys, we'll run another little VT if it works. And this is just a little case study that I hope again just paints the picture, and dovetailing perhaps with the two presentations earlier on, how you can get support into your clients.
I'm Rob Pattenden and I'm the Managing Director of Tech Professionals. Primarily we work with companies that do offshore renewables, so like wind farms, that kind of thing, and also subsea cable lay for the communications sector. So we're sending guys out to all sorts of various locations around the world. We've got projects in like remote islands in Indonesia, the Caribbean, places like that, and then nearer to home we've got people working on really big offshore wind farm projects in the North Sea. Like basically all recruitment businesses, cash flow is front and center in terms of the kind of challenges that we have to face. The way it works is we pay our contractors on a monthly basis, but often our clients won't pay us for, say, 60 days or even more sometimes. So we've got to look at something that bridges that gap. So for the previous 3 years, we were working with another invoice financing company, and they were fine. But we've actually seen some serious growth in the last few years. Actually grown 100% every year for the last 3 years. And we needed to work with a company that had the size to be able to handle what we were looking for, but also that desire to come on the journey of growth with us. So we started looking into the market. We spoke to a few different companies, and we even spoke to our bank. And in the end, we settled on Bibby Financial Services. They were a company that just had that size and had that scalability that we were looking for. We've got a dedicated team at Bibby. We've got a client manager, a team leader, and a credit controller. In the 3 months that we've been working with Bibby since we came on board, we've actually had 3 of our busiest ever months. We've taken on 3 new clients, including 2 sterling clients in the UK and a dollar client in Singapore. So it's been extremely busy, and we couldn't have done any of that without the support we're getting from Bibby. Cash flow, which has obviously always been a big concern for us, has been put into ever sharper focus with what's happened with COVID, and particularly for us because our clients are actually based all over the world, and that has been a real concern for us. But Bibby have been there to support us all the way through. So our plan is to continue to develop the business along these lines of demand, and keep sending more and more offshore technical and engineering personnel out to work. In order to do this, we need to maintain the funding that Bibby gives us, because that funding really is the engine of our business.
Okay, guys, thank you very much for listening to us.